Cults. When you hear about cults, you often hear about the Manson family, the People's Temple, Heaven's Gate, but these are not the only cults. This video will cover some of the most brutal cults that we've seen in history that we've not really talked about, and of course, viewer discretion is advised, violent and graphic content ahead. Anyways, let's just jump right into the video. The Anthill Kids. The Anthill Kids were a Doomsday cult that ranged from 1977 to 1989. It all started in Sainte-Marie in Quebec by a cult leader. His name was Roche, but people used to call him Moïse or Moses. In 1978, he settled his followers in a settlement called Eternal Mountain. And over there, he impregnated every single woman in his cult, and he told them that the end of the world was coming. But he told them that it was coming in 1 year, but 1 year had passed and nothing was happening. His cult became very doubtful of him and began doubting his teachings, but he told them that they shouldn't worry. In fact, this was simply a miscalculation, as God's time was not the same as time on earth. His cult continued, but more and more violence ensued. In 1984, the group settled in a settlement called Burnt River in Ontario. And over there, more violence ensued. In 1987, 17 of the kids will be taken by social services claiming abuse by Roche. From that, he became very angry and paranoid because he believed himself to be Moses, that these kids were his kids that he was saving from the end of the world, and he believed that these kids were doomed. And because of that, he began performing more violence and magical surgical operations that would go wrong. In 1989, cult member Solange Boyard was having a stomachache. Roche went to her and said that he would heal her. He ripped over her stomach and he would perform a trepanation of her skull, which would kill her instantly. Now, there was a woman at that surgical operation table that was watching with fear. Her name was Gabrielle Lavallée. Roche had previously burned her multiple times, removed her teeth, and chased her around with a knife in the kitchen area. She was scared, but she wanted to flee, but before she tried to run away and he punished her. Determined to flee, she actually fled this time and managed to contact the authorities. Roche would be arrested in 1989. The Blackburn Cult. It all started when two women, May Otis Blackburn and her sister, Ruth Blackburn, were visited by an angel around 1922. They believed that they were visited by the angel Gabriel, and that he told them that they were witnesses of God, as seen in Revelations 11 and 3. After this revelation, they would found a cult called the Divine Order of the Royal Arms of the Great 11, also known as the Blackburn Cult. In 1925, they promised the arrival of a great book called the Great Sixth Seal, a book of divine revelations and secrets. From this announcement, they would receive $50,000 from a rich oil magnate, and he wanted to give this money because he thought that this book would contain access to secret oil reserve, of which both sisters promised him that they would have access to these secret oil deposits. With all this money, they took it and they relocated to a place called Simi Valley, California, of which they really began their cult. Over there, cultists would begin their strange rituals like donkey sacrifices, rituals to resurrect a 16-year-old girl, and also many members would mysteriously disappear. But in 1929, police would arrive in Simi Valley. They were arrested for grand theft. In fact, the oil magnate had reported him, and he felt that he was scammed because it was already 1929 and the book was nowhere to be seen. But he would lose this court case because simply the court believed that he was just stupid. He gave away the money willingly and he wasn't really coerced in giving this money. He just gave it, and he's just an imbecile, they believed. But at the end, in 1931, she would finally publish a book, and a book that I have read myself, and is honestly just a total nonsense, bollocks information, and kind of repeats the same information I learned in my religious courses at my CJEP. Osho. Osho was an extremely rich cult that ranged from 1971 to 1985. At its peak, it owned its own city, 81 Rolls Royces, and its own airline. But it's also responsible for the biggest bio-attack in American history. It all started in the 1970s in India, where a new cult emerged. It was led by Guru Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. He started to market to people that he knew how to enlighten people, and he knew how to get eternal happiness. His new method, called dynamic meditation, allowed you to be grounded in the present and just always be happy and grounded in the present, not worrying about the past or the future. Now, he became extremely popular and had 300,000 followers who were giving him so much money that he had $300 million, and in 1981 he went all the way to Oregon and founded his own city called the City of Rajneesh that was founded in 1982. His cult would be extremely rich. They would found an entire city, there was an entire temple in the middle, and his cult followers were dressed all in orange, and they had trucks, cars, AK-47s, and they were extremely powerful. But one thing they did not have is the approval of the people. They did not have any political power, and it was certain that they would be kicked out of the city and everything they would lose. So in 1984, Man Anand Sheila saw this as a threat and decided to plan the 1984 Rajneesh Bio-attack. She, along with her followers, went to many salad bars in Oregon and poisoned them with salmonella. And the result, 781 were sick, and many went to the hospital and weren't able to vote. This way they could win the elections. But their ploy was caught on, and Man Anand Sheila was arrested. Now, because of this, the cult would later die, and people were just not believing this cult after this horrifying incident, and Rajneesh would also die from a heart attack. But today he's known for this meme over here.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
NXIVM. NXIVM was a slave sex cult that ranged from 1998 to 2018. It really started in 1998, and at that time, even today, many wanted to become successful actors, actresses, or businessmen. And Keith Raniere would create NXIVM, or NXIVM. He was a nerdy kid, but this really gave him this attention. All these people would gather and they would listen to him and see him as this, ultimate guru that knew how to make people successful. And he marketed himself as someone who knew how to make people successful and rich. And he would tell people how special they were, and people would really feel valorized and would really wanted to stay in NXIVM. I mean, NXIVM was this place where he told everyone that, you are who you surround yourself with. Your friends are who you are. And if you come here in NXIVM, you will surround yourself with successful people and you would become famous just like everyone around you. And NXIVM was this beacon of hope for this community in this place where actors and actresses were rejected constantly. And NXIVM was this place where they could rant and they could be told that, hey, now you're getting rejected, but one day you're going to become successful and you're unique. And they would really want to stay in NXIVM. But NXIVM would take a dark turn. Many women in the group would be told about an only woman improvement group called DOS. And this group told them that if you joined it, it was an all-woman group and that you would feel understood because all of these men over there you wouldn't understood. This was an all-woman group and you could finally be pushed to your ultimate limit and reach your ultimate levels of success. But the reality of this group is that it was DOS. It was a Latin word, but in turn it was basically domination over slave, DOS, and it was a sex trafficking ring. And upon entering, they would have to give collaterals of themselves, which is a nude picture, and they were told that if one day they leave DOS, that these pictures will be released to the public. And they would actually hire a very famous actress to become the leader and recruit more women. Her name was Alison Mack. She was a very famous actress at that time, and she would basically recruit these women into this sex cult. And in this cult, these women would be forced to have sexual interactions with Keith, and they couldn't see anyone else. In fact, there was one woman who tried to see someone else and go on a date, but then her punishment is that DOS put her into a basement for 2 years, and she wasn't able to leave. And these women were also forced to eat extremely little because Keith liked his women extremely thin, Many of these women were malnourished and were suffering. And many of these women, even though they were suffering and couldn't eat a lot, they were scared of leaving because of the collateral and their news would be released if they left. But in 2018, someone revealed the entire operation and Keith Raniere was arrested, as well as Alison Mack would also be arrested, and NXIVM was over. The Black Axe Cult. The Black Axe Cult started in 1977 in the University of Benin, but it really started off as a Pan-African unity movement. But as time went on, it became more and more violent. As unemployment and poverty struck, more and more people started joining the Black Axe movement and turned to violence. In the University of Benin, 2 students were killed by the Black Axe movement, but today it has become even more violent than just 2 university students killed by the cult. Today, it is suspected that they are engaged in civil warfare against other many cults in Nigeria, and that even top Nigerian officials are involved. It is suspected that these Nigerian officials are funding these Nigerian cult members with weapons, vehicles, and to use these cult members to get more votes and to win elections. And the Black Axe Cult also worship an ancient god called Korofo, the unseen god, the priest of the underground, and they pray to them for protection, and protection for war and violence. Today they engage in other ways to earn money like extortion, international scams, murders, and illegal deeds to make a living. Alright, thank you for watching this video. I hope the video didn't disturb you too much, and I'll see you in the next video.